Hi, I'm Minnie Biswas, and today I want to talk to you about AI from a very practical and human-centered perspective. This is not a product pitch, and it's not another hype-led talk about what AI could do in theory. I'm here to talk through what I am seeing in real organizations and some of the real conversations I'm having with real people who are trying to make sense of this change, this new era we're living in, AI transformation. And because I genuinely don't believe AI is failing, but I think in many cases we are just approaching it maybe in the wrong way. And we are switching tools on before people fully understand how to use them. We're talking about transformation here before behaviors that have changed, and we're here expecting value before we have designed the use cases or ownership or governance and security around it too. And that's a key element here. So this talk is about why AI adoption stalls, what leaders need to think about differently, and how we make AI feel useful, trusted, and human, not overwhelming. So I'll begin with giving you a little bit about who I am. So I'm Minnie Biswas, AI leader, enabler. I've been in the industry for about 16 odd years in the tech space. And just to give you a quick lens of, what I bring to the table right now, obviously my career has not been a straight line. It's not just been in tech either. I have actually moved through different worlds, doing, criminology at university, working in the charity sector, as well as a street fundraiser, and then eventually entering the corporate world, where technology, I've seen the whole shift from people moving from infrastructure on the physical landscape going to a more digital cloud footprint, and now obviously AI in the mix, security in the mix, responsible AI as well. And my background is also Bollywood. I mean, that's a big part of I was a child actor. And I've done, lots of stints in, movies to music videos to plays on stage, etc. So, in terms of AI, and it is shaped by people, I believe, and behavior, and risk, and confidence, and inclusion, and leadership, and change, all these different things. And I've always been interested in why people do what they do, what makes them trust something, what makes them resist something, and what helps them feel capable. And that is also why AI leadership for me is not just about understanding the technology, but it's also about helping people feel confident, included, and capable in the changes that we're going through. Um, and I bring all myself into that, my professional experience, my leadership journey, my cultural background, being a mum of two, being a woman in tech, being a mentor, and being someone who cares deeply about making this space more accessible. That's sort of me in a nutshell. So this talk, like I mentioned, is built around some of the key pillars that we're going to touch upon today. And why does AI actually stall? Where are we getting it wrong? Let's go into the crux of it. So what needs to change? How do we scale it responsibly? And so for me, these are the questions leaders need to be asking more often. The conversation around AI can become very tool-led quite quickly. And what problem are we buying? What license do we need? What feature has just launched? What can the model do now? And those things matter, but they are not the full story. And the bigger the question is, I guess the bigger question is whether AI is actually landing in the organization. Is it actually improving work? Is it helping people make better decisions? Is it being used safely? Is there ownership? Is there value? Are people confident? So these sort of questions and the things to think about, this isn't about hype. It's about not fear either, and it's about the reality of adoption. And in that space, when we talk about people, process, culture, security, governance, leadership, all those things play a huge part in successful adoption when it comes to AI. And the uncomfortable reality is that AI is being switched on faster than it is being absorbed. I'm seeing this in, quite a lot. Organizations are moving quite quickly. They are enabling the tools. They're launching the pilots. They're running the workshops, experimenting with use cases and running, POCs as well, which is proof of concepts. And they're trying to keep up with the pace of change as well, because obviously new updates come out every single week, latest large language model releases, be it from a Copilot multi-model point of view or just in the background in terms of the tools that are being used within that platform, and then obviously all the other AI tools and models that are out there as well. And this is understandable because the technology is moving incredibly fast. People are using in their personal worlds. We've got all the consumer tools that we're using as well. But switching AI on from a workplace perspective is not the same as transforming how an organization works. And this tool is not the transformation. The harder work is actually changing how decisions are made and how workflows operate and how people collaborate, how risk is managed and how leaders help their teams understand what good AI use actually looks like. A lot of people are already comfortable using AI in their personal lives. They might use it to plan something, to write something, summarize information, create an image, explore ideas, personal journeys, personal CVs, that sort of thing, researching. But that comfort doesn't automatically translate into the workplace. At work, the stakes are different, and there is sensitive data to think about. There is accountability. There are customers, colleagues, compliance obligations, and business outcomes involved within this too. So the real transformation is not access to AI. It is helping people understand how, when, and why to use it well. And when I look at why AI initiatives stall, I see some common patterns. The first is sort of the starting tool. And someone says, we need AI before anyone has really clearly defined the problem they are trying to solve. That creates activity, but not always value. And the second is assuming training equals adoption. And a launch session is useful, but it does not automatically change behavior. So people might attend a session, understand the basics, and still go to back to old ways of working the next day. They're still looking at Google searching. They're still using the tool as a search, like they would probably do as a Google search. And is this element of it that is what needs to look to be amended or adopted. The third is also a lack of ownership. AI often gets treated as an IT project with just the IT individuals in an organization, when actually it's a business change. It touches so many different types of departments and stakeholders. It touches how people work and how teams make decisions, how processes run, how value is measured. And then there's that trust gap. People are asking really sensible questions. Can I trust the output? What data can I use? What happens if the customer is wrong? Am I allowed to use this for customer work? Who is accountable? And finally, there is often no value loop. Pilots happen, enthusiasm sort of builds, but the organization does not always measure what changed, what improved, what was saved, or what should be scaled. And in many conversations I hear, the excitement, the concern, the ambition, and the confusion all in the same room from different stakeholders in that conversation. So this is normal. But if the adoption work is underscoped, the pilot stalls. So when AI stalls, I do not see that as a technology failure, but most of the time it's an adoption failure, a leadership failure in some cases, and an operating model failure. The technology might be capable, as we can see, it's obviously gaining a lot of momentum now as well, and making some huge transformation changes. And we're seeing lots of use cases come out. We're seeing all the outputs and the outcomes that are being driven by this. But the organization has still a lot to do in terms of creating that adoption journey and the strategy around that, and creating conditions for it to succeed. And this is one of the biggest differences I see. At home, AI can feel fast, personal, low consequence, experimental. And if I use AI at home and the answer is not perfect, I can ignore it, change it, try again, move on. It's a conversation flow going. But the risk, for this is usually low. But, at work, when we talk about AI being used from a business value perspective, that's where everything changes. At work, I'm accountable. I might be handling sensitive data. I might be making a decision that affects a customer, a colleague, a project, a financial outcome, or a compliance requirement. So people can be curious at home and cautious at work. And that does not mean they are anti-AI. It means they are thinking responsibly. And these questions, become quite different in terms of how we manage those curiosity questions or cautious questions that come in a room full of lots of different types of people in an organization. And these are the types of things to keep open, communication lines open, so people can feedback how they're feeling and what they're using and how to make the most of this tool at work. So, that is why enterprise adoption needs more than just access. And, it needs permission, clarity, confidence, guardrails. And for me, that is where good leadership comes in. It's not forcing people to use AI, but it's creating sort of safe confidence around it as well. And it's kind of, bringing that to the table to have, a community-led sort of AI team or champions within your organization that should be embraced. So human in the loop, we're hearing this phrase quite a lot, something I personally believe in massively. And I don't think that it should be treated just as a safety label. For me, it's an operating principle. AI should enhance human judgment. It shouldn't replace it. It shouldn't dilute it, or make us unintellectual or intellectually passive. One of my concerns is that if we are not careful, people can start to outsource too much of their thinking. And, we've seen these phrases before. We've seen the phase of when calculators first came out. We've seen the phase when, mobile phones came out, from even touch screens now to where they were before, like my BlackBerry, my favorite BlackBerry buttoned phone, for example. So we have seen a lot of these, transformations take place, from a personal world perspective. But, the ask of the tool, we use AI here, we use it, we move on and slowly stop challenging what is in front of people. And that's the issue here. We need to ensure that human is always in the loop. And we can use the technology to enhance ourselves. The goal here is to give people more space to think better. And AI can absolutely help us move faster. It can structure ideas, summarize information, it can spot patterns, it can create first drafts, it can challenge assumptions and help us get started. But people still need to bring the context. People bring that judgment, the ethics, the lived experience, the emotional intelligence and accountability. So when I talk about human in the loop, I'm not just talking about approval at the end. I'm talking about keeping humans meaningfully involved through the process. We need to teach critical review as much as prompting. We need to help people ask better questions, challenge outputs, understand limitations, and know when human judgment matters most. That is how we use AI to accelerate thinking and not to outsource it. So that's a key difference. And that's a cool image of me that I created using AI, by the way. Um, So what leaders need to sort of design? So what needs to change? And for me, leaders need to start designing AI adoption properly. That means starting with the use case, what pain points we are trying to solve, what value are we trying to create, and then the workflow. Where does AI actually fit into the whole way, work happens, and not in theory, but in the day-to-day reality of the role or process. And then you've got the guardrails, what is safe, what is not safe, what data can be used, what is deemed as stale data or sensitive data that, a user shouldn't have access to. And when does a human need to review? What decisions should never be left to AI alone, as an example. And then you've got capability. How do people learn? How do they build confidence over time? How do we move beyond one-off training into actual real enablement? And finally, value. How will we know if this has worked? Are we measuring time saved, quality improved, risk reduced, customer experience, employee experience? Or better decision making, and without this, AI remains sort of a feature. And with this, AI becomes a business capability when you start thinking about it beyond the feature. And I think that shift is really important. Leaders need to stop asking only, what can the tool do, and start asking, where should AI genuinely improve work safely and measurably? And governance shouldn't be, something that arrives after the pilot. It should definitely be something that should be top of the mind, when you're looking at adopting. And when people suddenly realize the risks have not been thought through, it's one of those things that do catch organizations out. And it needs to be part of the conversation right from the beginning. It is one of the foundational layers that should be talked about when adopting AI. And I want to, be really clear here. Governance is not the opposite of innovation. Good governance is what allows organizations to move faster with confidence. If people do not trust the data or the controls or the accountability, model or adoption slows down, for example, the technology itself is brilliant. People will hesitate if they do not feel safe using it. And the questions I hear are very practical. What data can we use? Who has access? How do we prevent oversharing? What happens if the AI output is wrong? Or who signs off high risk use cases? How do we make sure responsible AI is not just a policy document, but something people understand in their day-to-day work? And these are not blocker questions, by the way. These are just scaling questions. And because, if we want AI to move beyond pilots, trust has to be built from day one. And so this is a huge area for organizations to, ensure they are thinking about this at this level for that successful adoption to take place. And when I look at organizations that are approaching AI well, I do see a different pattern. They are business led. They are not chasing AI for novelty. They are anchoring it to real outcomes, real pain points, and real value. And they are role based. They don't talk about AI in sort of generic terms only. Where they're not just talking about chat functionality within AI. They are taking it to that next level. When we talk about agentic AI, we talk about, work IQ. They help people understand what AI means for their actual work, for their role, their department, their decisions, and their daily pressures. And they are community driven. And that's what I've seen good success look like. They understand that people learn from people. Champions, peer stories, safe spaces to experiment, and honest conversations all matter. And they are governed early. And they don't wait until something goes wrong to talk about controls and data accountability and responsible use. They are measured. They are thinking about that right from the get-go, right from the beginning. They track that value. They are looking at the adoption, the behavioral change. And that measurement piece matters because if we can't describe the value, the initiative can easily become another pilot that people remember as interesting but not essential. And the win is not more AI, the win is better work, better decisions, better outcomes. And that is a shift from AI activity to AI capability. So I think the next phase of AI is not just about using AI more. It's about designing organizations that can learn, adapt, improve with AI safely. That means moving from fragmented pilots into proper AI operating models. It means having a pipeline of use cases. It means having governance that is practical and not just theoretical. It means building communities. It means tracking value. It means making sure the data foundation is secure. And it means leaders being able to explain why the change matters. And that for me, the journey is curiosity. That's something that I naturally bring to a table of my conversations anyway. But that journey is curiosity, confidence, capability, and scale. Curiosity gets people started. Confidence, helps people use AI safely. Capability makes makes it repeatable, and scale is where it becomes part of how organizations work. And organizations that succeed will not simply be the ones that use more or buy more AI. They will be the ones that redesign work around human and digital collaboration with people still at the center. So my final thoughts is this: AI is not failing because the technology is weak. It fails when organizations underestimate the people, the process, the leadership, and trust required to make it stick. And if we want AI to succeed, we need to stop treating adoption as that final step after deployment. Adoption is the strategy. It is where value, trust, governance, and human capability come together. And for me, that is, what makes this space so exciting. AI is not just a technology conversation, it's a leadership conversation, it's a people conversation. And it's a chance to think about, rethink how we work, how we make decisions, and how we create better outcomes. So yeah, hopefully that all resonated with you. Thank you so much for listening. If you are working through similar questions in your organization, I'm more than happy to, continue the conversation. Please do connect with me. This is my LinkedIn profile, and I'll be around for AI Week. If you've got any questions at all, please feel free to DM me and come my way. But have a lovely rest of the week. See you later. Thank you so much.